He had only meant to kill time. That was the part everyone who knew him later agreed on. It wasn't thrill-seeking or hunger for anything dark, just boredom. A quiet weekday night. Rain tapping the windows. His wife asleep upstairs. The spare room down the hallway empty, same as always. He'd stumbled across a link in a private forum he barely remembered joining. One of those places where people joke about things they pretend they'd never actually do. Someone mentioned paid live streams. Voyeur stuff, they called it. Nothing violent. Just watching. $40. That was what stopped him at first. Not the idea, not the secrecy, just the price. $40 to see something anonymous, something distant. Something that wasn't supposed to touch his real life. He paid anyway. The stream loaded slowly. A black screen at first, then static, then an image so ordinary it almost made him laugh. The room. Empty. Beige walls. Soft yellow light. No people. No movement. Just the faint hum of electricity and a barely audible noise, like a house settling. Viewers in the chat complained. What's the point? Is this broken? Where's the content? He almost closed the page. Then he leaned closer to the screen. The room wasn't generic. It wasn't staged. There were small things, details, that felt too familiar to ignore. A scuff low on the wall. The way the carpet dipped slightly near the doorway. The old ceiling fan with one blade lighter than the others. His stomach tightened. He paused the stream. Stared. Unpaused it again, hoping motion would shake the feeling loose. It didn't. He stood up from his desk and walked slowly down the hallway. The spare room door was open just like it always was. The light inside was off. When he flipped the switch, the room flooded with yellow light, and for one long moment, his brain refused to connect what his eyes were telling him. The scuff on the wall was there. The carpet dip. The ceiling fan. Identical. He stepped back into the hallway, heart pounding, then rushed back to his computer. The live stream was still running. Still showing the room. His room. Not from the doorway like a camera placed during a walkthrough, but from a corner high enough to see most of the space. An angle he never stood in. Is this staged? He typed in the chat with shaking hands. No one responded. Someone else wrote, wait for it. That was when he noticed the sound. Not the hum. Something new underneath it. A soft, irregular noise. Like breathing, not close to the microphone but present. He muted his speakers and listened to the real house instead. Silence. The breathing continued on screen. He refreshed the page. The image returned instantly. Same angle. Same room. Same sound. He moved back toward the spare room, slow this time. Careful not to make noise. Every step felt too loud. The hallway seemed longer than it ever had. When he reached the doorway, he didn't turn on the light. He stood there in the dark, staring into the empty space. Nothing moved. No camera. No wires. No red indicator light. Just a room that had been empty for years. Behind him, his computer chimed. Someone in the chat had posted a message. He's standing outside the door now. He didn't remember running back to the desk, but suddenly he was there, staring at the screen. The livestream camera had shifted. The view now showed the doorway. His doorway. Dark beyond it. A stretch of hallway swallowed by shadow. His shadow. Perfectly framed. Another message appeared. Wave. He slammed the laptop shut. For several seconds, maybe more, he just stood there, breathing too fast, waiting for something to happen. When nothing did, he convinced himself it had to be a prank. Someone had hacked the camera feed. Some sick coincidence. He reopened the laptop. The stream was still live. The camera angle had changed again. Now it was closer. Lower. As if whoever was filming had stepped into the room. The breathing was louder. Shallow. Close. He unplugged the laptop. Actually pulled the cord out of the wall. The screen went black. And immediately from the spare room, he heard something adjust its weight. Not footsteps. Not a scrape. Just a soft shift, like someone sitting still for too long and finally moving. He didn't call out. He didn't go in. He woke his wife instead, whispering nonsense about a noise downstairs, about checking the locks. They went through the house together, lights blazing, hearts pounding. Nothing. No one. No signs of forced entry. The spare room was empty. They didn't sleep that night. Or the next. The police came the following afternoon. Took a report. Checked windows. Shrugged. Suggested online scams, fake streams, psychological stress. Told him to change passwords and avoid sketchy websites. They never found a camera. For weeks, things felt normal again. Almost. Then small things started to shift. Objects in the spare room moved slightly. A chair angled differently. The door left open when he swore he'd closed it. His wife insisted she hadn't been in there. One night, he heard typing downstairs. He froze in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to keys clack softly, steadily, without pause. In the morning, his laptop was back on his desk. Plugged in. The browser open. The same site loaded. A new message waited in the center of the screen. "Thank you for subscribing." Below it was a live video feed. The angle was wide, higher than before. It showed the spare room. But now there were 2 chairs. One empty, one occupied. The man in the chair wasn't bound. He wasn't struggling. He sat calmly, eyes wide, face pale, staring directly into the camera. Behind him, in the hallway, the house lights flickered on. Somewhere upstairs, his wife screamed. The stream chat exploded. And the counter at the bottom of the screen ticked upward. Viewers joining, paying, watching. Because once you've seen a room like that, it never really belongs to you again. He never went looking for it. That's the detail that makes what happened afterward feel so cruel. The man at the center of this story, his name was Aaron, didn't set out to explore the dark web the way people imagine. He wasn't chasing gore. He wasn't hunting secrets. He was just curious in the bored, careless way people get late at night when everything online starts to feel repetitive. Aaron worked night shifts at a shipping depot outside the city. Long hours. Minimal sleep. Most nights ended the same way. A cheap meal, a dim apartment, and a laptop balanced on his knees while the world stayed quiet outside. He spent time on obscure forums, rabbit holes about unsolved disappearances, strange crimes that never made the news. Not because he was obsessed with violence, but because he liked understanding patterns. What made people vanish? How systems failed. One thread, buried deep in an anonymous forum, caught his attention. It wasn't flashy. No warning labels. Just a short post with a plain title. Fair market, restricted access. No emojis. No clickbait language. Just a sentence underneath. Bidding closes weekly. Funds escrowed. Outcomes guaranteed. Someone in the comments asked what kind of market it was. The response came from the original poster. Missing persons. Real ones. Aaron laughed under his breath. He assumed it was roleplay. Another edgy corner of the internet pretending to be darker than it really was. But curiosity pushed him to click the provided link. The page loaded slowly. No images. No music. Just a neutral gray background and a list. Names. Ages. Cities. Each name had a small tag next to it, active. When he clicked one, more details appeared. Height. Hair color. Last known location. A timestamp for capture confirmation. At the bottom was a number. $12,400, current highest bid. Aaron felt his stomach tighten. He scrolled faster, searching for disclaimers, for fake tells, for anything that signaled performance art. Instead, he found the rules. Bids reset every 7 days. Highest bidder chooses the outcome. Release location provided upon completion. Erasure is permanent. Erasure. No definition. No explanation. He closed the laptop and went to bed telling himself it was fake. That it had to be fake. The next day, during his break, he searched the name from the listing on a normal browser. Local news article. 6 weeks old. College student still missing after late night walk home. Same name. Same age. Same city. That was the first time Aaron felt fear. Not panic, not shock, but something heavier. The kind of dread that settles in your chest and doesn't move. He didn't go back to the site that night. He waited 3 days. When he finally opened it again, the name was gone. Marked as closed. Another listing appeared at the top. New city. New face. New timer counting down. Aaron told himself he needed proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. So he picked the cheapest listing. A middle-aged man reported missing after a roadside breakdown. The highest bid was low. The description short. Aaron scraped together money he didn't have. He justified it in his head. If this was real, he could choose release. He could save someone. If it wasn't real, he'd lose money but gain peace of mind. When his bid cleared escrow, a new option unlocked. Outcome selection. 2 buttons. Release. Erase. He stared at them for nearly an hour before clicking release. A message appeared instantly. Location will be sent upon completion. 3 days later, an update posted on the site's announcement page. Subject delivered. Thank you for participating. That evening, a small town police department posted a notice online. Missing man found alive near a rest stop 40 miles north of where he disappeared. Disoriented. Dehydrated. Unwilling to speak. Aaron threw up in his sink. It wasn't fake. And worse, it worked. He didn't stop after that. At first, he told himself he was balancing the scale. That for every monster bidding on erasure, there needed to be someone clicking release. He maxed out credit cards, took out payday loans. He stayed up late watching bid timers, competing against usernames that always seemed to have deeper pockets. But something disturbing started to happen. He noticed patterns. Certain bidders always appeared in the final minutes. Prices spiked impossibly fast. People who bid early rarely won. The same 2 or 3 usernames dominated the final seconds, every time. And they always chose erasure. One night, Aaron clicked into a closed listings log, a feature he hadn't noticed before. Outcome, erased. Confirmation, verified. Materials archived. Materials. The word stuck with him. Then came the listing that broke him. A girl, 13 years old, disappeared on her way home from school. Amber Alert photo still circulating online. Aaron couldn't breathe as he stared at the bid counter climbing faster than he'd ever seen. 30,000, 40, 50. The usernames bidding weren't random anymore. They were familiar, frequent. Aaron emptied his accounts, maxed everything, borrowed from anyone who'd still answer his calls. He lost by $8,000. The outcome locked in automatically. This time the site updated with something new. A private message. You seem affected by results. Another message followed seconds later. You've participated in enough releases. We assume curiosity outweighs discomfort. A link appeared beneath. Would you like to see how erasure works? Aaron should have deleted everything. He should have contacted authorities, though he already knew there was nothing he could prove. Instead, shaking, he clicked. What loaded wasn't video. It was documentation. Receipts. Logistics. Contracts. Local intermediaries. Private properties. Non-disclosure agreements. Corrupted officials paid to delay investigations. Medical supply orders. It wasn't one group. It was an ecosystem. At the bottom was a final section titled Contribution Status. Aaron's name, his real name, was listed. Role, funder. Total funded outcomes, 17. Release selections, 8. Erasure selections funded indirectly, 9. He realized then what the market really was. Even when he clicked release, the money still flowed through the same system. The same hands. The same infrastructure. There were no good bids. Only participation. The final message appeared before he could close the page. Bidding is not about choice. It is about complicity. Aaron disappeared 2 months later. No forced entry. No struggle. His laptop was gone. His bank accounts emptied cleanly like they'd never existed. A listing appeared on Fair Market that same week. Mel. Early 30s. Night shift worker. Anonymous participant. Starting bid was high. Higher than any before. And the timer was already counting down. Ethan wasn't the kind of person people worried about until he disappeared. He was 26, chronically broke and always chasing shortcuts. Not dangerous shortcuts, just desperate ones. Side hustles that lived in the gray areas. Cash gigs that sounded legal enough when explained quickly. That's why, when he told his friends he'd found a way to make easy money online, no one looked too closely. He said it started with a private forum, not a social network. Not exactly the dark web either, at least not in the way people imagine. Just a closed site where users posted performance content. Everything from fake confessions to staged pranks. Things meant to look real but weren't. Ethan claimed people paid top dollar for believable fear. One night at a bar, he leaned across the sticky table and lowered his voice, grinning like he'd cracked a code. I sold a kidnapping video, he said. Someone laughed. Someone else told him he was an idiot. Ethan shrugged. It's fake. That's the point. They know it's fake, they just don't want it to look fake. He explained how it worked. Short clips, low lighting, his hands zip-tied, a hood pulled over his head, muffled shouting. The comments loved it, the realism, the panic in his voice. They tipped well. Enough that he paid his rent early for the first time in months. The video went up on a Monday night. On Tuesday, Ethan sent proof, a screenshot of his account balance. On Wednesday, he stopped answering texts. At first, everyone assumed he was busy riding his sudden success. Ethan loved going quiet when things were going well. He liked the attention waiting on the other side. But then the second video dropped. It was shorter, darker. The camera angle slightly off, like it had been placed by someone else. Ethan was on the floor this time, wrists bound behind him, breathing hard. The duct tape over his mouth was new. Not staged sloppily like before. Tighter. In the comments, people praised the improvement. Production values better. Way more convincing. Feels real. One friend messaged him immediately. Nice upgrade. But maybe slow down. This is getting weird. No reply. The third video arrived 2 days later. Ethan's face was visible now. Bruised along the cheekbone. One eye swollen. The lighting flickered like a bare bulb swinging just out of frame. He wasn't shouting anymore. He wasn't acting panicked. He looked exhausted. Hollowed out. Someone asked in the comments if he was okay. The reply came from Ethan's account within seconds. All part of the act. That was the last message anyone ever got from him directly. By the weekend, his apartment manager filed a wellness check. The door was unlocked. The place looked half-packed, as if Ethan had started to leave and stopped midway. His phone was gone. His laptop too. No blood. No signs of a struggle. Just his camera tripod still folded, leaning against the wall. The fourth video uploaded Sunday night at 2:13 a.m. This one didn't last long. In it, Ethan was kneeling. The camera was closer now, too close, cutting off parts of his head as he shifted. His lips were cracked. The tape was gone, but his mouth trembled like he didn't trust himself to speak. A voice entered the frame. Come, Mel. Casual. Tell them why you're doing this. Ethan swallowed. Because I agreed to, he said. Because I needed the money. The comments exploded. Some thought it was scripted genius. Others said it felt wrong. Too slow. Too quiet. No background music. No dramatic editing. The video cut abruptly. 2 hours later, the channel posted a text update. Next upload in 48 hours. Final act. By then, people were sharing the clips beyond the forum. Speculation spread. Some tried reporting the account. Others begged for it to stop. A few offered to pay more, for proof it was still fake. The fifth video never appeared. Instead, the channel uploaded something new. A still image. A dim room. Concrete floor. A familiar scuff mark near the wall, recognizable to exactly 3 people. It was Ethan's basement storage unit. Below the image was a caption. Performance complete. Contract fulfilled. Police were finally notified in full. Not just a missing person. Not just suspicious activity. An investigation traced the payments Ethan had received at the beginning. Every deposit came from different accounts. Different countries. No consistent source. Clean money laundered expertly. Experts later concluded something unsettling. Ethan didn't fake his kidnapping. He sold the rights to it. The initial agreement, buried deep in legal jargon he never read, allowed buyers to extend the narrative for authenticity, to escalate realism, to take control if the performer stopped responding. By the time Ethan realized the views, the uploads, the comments weren't controlled by him anymore, it was already too late. He had signed himself away. The channel remained online for months, frozen in silence. Then one evening it changed its profile description. Accepting submissions. Within hours, a new upload appeared. Low light. Shaking camera. A different voice. Someone new asking, quietly, if anyone was watching. Most people who frequent the darker corners of the internet expect violence to announce itself clearly. Screams. Blood. Something unmistakable. That expectation is why so many viewers stayed far longer than they meant to. The stream first appeared on a private forum hidden several layers deep, shared quietly between users who treated curiosity like a currency. There was no dramatic title. No threats. No warning. Just a thread with a single sentence. Live feed. No cuts. No acts. Watch if you're patient. The link opened to a grainy video feed. One fixed camera. No sound. It showed a small, undecorated room. White walls stained yellow with age. A bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. A metal chair bolted into the concrete floor at the center of the frame. No person was visible. At first, viewers assumed it was broken or unfinished. Some closed it immediately. Others waited, expecting something to happen. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The room never changed. The light never flickered. Dust floated through the beam like slow snowfall. People began posting comments in the forum, mocking it. This is it. Worst fake red room I've seen. Nothing's happening. But the stream stayed live. And people stayed too. There was something unsettling about how untouched the room felt. like a place meant to be observed rather than used. No windows, no vents. The door, a single steel slab, was closed but not locked. No chains, no restraints, just a chair. After 3 hours, the chat slowed. The people who remained weren't there for shock anymore. They were waiting because leaving felt wrong, like walking away mid-sentence. Sometime during the 4th hour, someone noticed something small. A soundless movement at the edge of the frame, not inside the room. A shadow passed beneath the door. It was gone in less than a second, and most viewers missed it. Those who didn't convince themselves it was compression artifacting, cheap camera distortion, anything but what it implied. Then hours later, the chair moved. Not much. Just enough to scrape softly across the concrete floor. No one touched it. No one entered. The chair shifted as if weight had pressed down on it, then released. The forum erupted. Some viewers claimed they saw the dent of a body form in the seat, then fade. Others argued it was staged lighting. A trick. Still, nobody left. It was near dawn for most of the remaining watchers when something changed for good. A bowl appeared. No hand placed it there. No door opened. It was simply suddenly on the floor beside the chair. A shallow metal bowl. Completely empty. This was when the stream gained traction beyond its small circle. Clips spread. Re-uploads surfaced. People who had never believed in red rooms tuned in, curious but skeptical. Still no violence. No threats. Just a quiet room and an empty bowl. Over the next few hours, more objects appeared. Slowly. One at a time. A second bowl. A plastic water bottle. Sealed but without a label. A folded blanket placed neatly in the corner. Viewers debated fiercely. Some believed the room was being prepared. Others claimed the objects had always been there and were only now being noticed. Then the chair creaked again. Longer this time. The impression returned, clearer than before. The unmistakable shape of someone sitting. The seat dipped. The backrest shifted inward slightly as if bearing weight. And then, faintly, the blanket moved. Dragged. Inch by inch, it slid across the floor toward the chair until it rested against invisible legs. No body appeared. But the absence felt worse than presence. Someone in the forum typed what everyone was beginning to realize. There's someone in there. We just can't see them. The theory spread fast. The lighting was designed to obscure. The camera quality intentionally degraded. Whatever was in the room wasn't invisible, it was being denied. Denied to the viewers at least. Hours turned into a full day. The stream never cut. The bowls remained empty. The water bottle untouched. The impression in the chair didn't move anymore. Some viewers started timing it. No shifts. No relief of pressure. Whoever or whatever was seated hadn't stood once. Someone pointed out the soundless stream might still have audio, just muted. They uploaded a filtered capture, amplifying white noise. What came through was barely perceptible. Breathing. Shallow. Strained. The kind that scrapes the inside of the throat. Then coughing. Dry and weak. The forum changed tone instantly. The excitement dissolved into something colder. No one joked anymore. Viewers watched because they felt complicit now. Watching meant acknowledging. On the second day, the water bottle disappeared. Not emptied. Gone. The bowls remained. One viewer tracked the shadow beneath the door again. It returned twice that day, each time lasting longer. Each time dragging something heavy across the floor outside the room. No one ever entered. By the third day, the chair sagged more noticeably. The blanket was bunched beneath the invisible figure's chin, as if to support a head that could no longer hold itself up. The coughing stopped. The breathing didn't. Someone finally noticed something no one had considered before. There was a camera angle problem. The feed wasn't centered on the room. It was angled downward slightly, just enough to show the floor clearly but not the upper half of whoever was sitting. Just high enough to avoid showing a face. That realization spread like poison. People began pleading in the forum, demanding the stream be shut down, begging moderators to trace it. Then the camera moved. For the first time since the stream began, the angle tilted up. Slowly. Deliberately. The chair was empty, but the floor beneath it wasn't. A human shape lay curled on the concrete. Visible now. Horribly so. The body was emaciated to the point of distortion. Skin stretched tight over bone. Lips cracked and blackened. Eyes sunken deep, staring unfocused at nothing. The bowls were pushed out of reach. The blanket was wrapped tightly around the torso, not for warmth, but to restrain movement. The camera lingered. Then text appeared at the bottom of the screen. Violence is quick. Hunger is patient. The stream ended immediately afterward. No authorities ever identified the room. The feed origin vanished completely. The forums were wiped. But among those who watched it all the way through, there's one detail they never stopped talking about. In the final frame, just before the cut, the person on the floor blinked. What? Slow. As if they had known they were finally being seen. The sight didn't look dangerous. That was the part that fooled him. It appeared plain, almost boring. No flashing banners. No gore. No threats. Just rows of listings against a gray background, organized into neat categories. Jewelry. Personal items. Miscellaneous. Each product photo was taken the same way, placed on a white surface, evenly lit, no fingerprints, no clutter. Clinical. Careful. Evan found it during a late-night dive through obscure marketplaces, the kind of idle browsing that happens when sleep won't come. He wasn't looking for anything illegal. He wasn't even curious about crime. He just liked strange corners of the internet, places that felt forgotten. At first glance, the listing seemed mundane. A gold wedding band. A cracked smartphone. A kid's blue sneaker, size small, laces neatly tied. A woman's purse with a frayed strap. What unsettled him was the pricing. The wedding ring was absurdly cheap. The shoe even cheaper. Everything was priced like the seller wanted it gone fast, not sold well. There were no descriptions. Only titles. Gold band, slight wear. Child shoe, right foot. Wallet, contents removed. Evan scrolled longer than he meant to. He couldn't explain why. The longer he stared at the items, the more they felt curated. Not scavenged. Not random. As if each piece had been selected, preserved, and presented with intention. He clicked on the seller's profile. There were dozens of them. All using different usernames. All selling the same kinds of items. All using the same sterile photography style. No reviews. No comments. No contact options. Just inventory. Evan told himself it was probably stolen goods. Maybe from car break-ins. Maybe from evictions. That explanation should have been enough. It wasn't. He kept scrolling. That's when he saw the listing that made him stop breathing. Keychain, black paracord with brass clip. The photo loaded slowly. The keychain lay flat on the white surface. Black woven cord. Slight fraying near the knot. A tiny notch scratched into the brass clip. Evan recognized it immediately. It had disappeared from his car 6 days earlier. He hadn't reported it stolen because nothing else was missing. No broken glass. No signs of a break-in. Just the keychain gone from the cup holder where he always dropped it. He told himself he must have misplaced it. That explanation had been easy. Forgettable. Seeing it on that page wasn't. He zoomed in on the image, heart hammering. The scratch on the clip, made when his keys slipped from his hand at a gas station months ago, was right there. Identical. Exact. There was no doubt. That was his. He refreshed the page. The listing remained. Evan closed his laptop and sat in the dark, listening to the hum of his refrigerator down the hall. The silence felt wrong, like the room was waiting for something. Eventually, curiosity won. He opened the site again and clicked through more listings, this time paying closer attention. Not just to the objects, but to the patterns. Shoes were always single. Never pairs. Phones were wiped, but often cracked in ways that suggested drops, not age. Jewelry always had slight wear, never damage. And every item felt paused. Removed midlife. Like evidence. He searched the site using his city's name. Results populated instantly. Dozens of items. Familiar brands. Familiar styles. Some photographed against surfaces he recognized. Laminate countertops, cheap carpet. Even a cracked sidewalk he was sure existed near a bus stop he passed every morning. That night, Evan didn't sleep. The next day, he did something he wouldn't later admit to anyone. He bought his keychain. The checkout process was seamless. Too seamless. No questions asked. No address confirmation. The package arrived 2 days later in a padded envelope with no return address. Inside was the keychain. Still warm. That detail stuck with him. He couldn't explain why, but when he held it, it felt like it hadn't been sitting in a warehouse. It felt recently handled. That evening he went back to the site. His listing was gone. But something else had appeared. Watch, men's leather strap. The photo showed a watch Evan recognized from the missing person poster taped to a lamppost near his office. A man in his 40s. Local. Vanished 3 weeks ago. The watch had been visible on his wrist in the photo. Evan checked the price. Lower than it should have been. He backed away from the computer, nausea crawling up his throat. The police station was only 10 minutes away. He stood in his kitchen debating whether to go. How would he explain it? That he found a watch online that looked like it belonged to a missing man? That he'd bought his own stolen property from a faceless seller? He hesitated too long. When he returned to his laptop, the listing was gone. In its place was something new. Backpack, red canvas. Evan recognized that too. It belonged to a college student who disappeared from a nearby town last fall. That was when the truth settled in, heavy and unavoidable. This wasn't a stolen goods site. It was a catalog. The items were proof of completion. Evan began checking missing persons databases obsessively. Each time a case went cold, new objects appeared on the marketplace within days. Always belongings the police listed as unaccounted for. Always photographed the same way. He realized then why there were no reviews. Buyers weren't customers. They were participants. Every purchase confirmed demand. And demand kept the seller motivated. Evan tried reporting the site anonymously. Nothing happened. Days passed. Listings continued. Then one morning, Evan noticed something that turned his blood cold. A filter option he hadn't seen before. Nearby. He clicked it. The page refreshed. Only 3 listings appeared. All within a 5-mile radius. One of them made his vision blur. Apartment keys, set of 2. The photo showed keys resting on a white tabletop. Behind them, barely visible at the edge of the frame, was a patterned placemat. Evan owned that placemat. He backed away slowly, scanning his apartment as if the walls might explain themselves. His door was locked. Windows secured. Nothing disturbed. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single message. Inventory updates automatically. Thank you for contributing. He unplugged his laptop and didn't return to the site again. 2 days later, Evan didn't show up for work. His car was found in the parking lot, locked. Nothing missing except a set of apartment keys. A week after that, a new listing appeared. Wallet, brown leather, initials inside. Priced low. No description. No explanation. Just another personal belonging, waiting for someone curious enough to browse. No one ever expects therapy to be terrifying. Not like this. He was a quiet guy, the kind who never really spoke about his past. A coworker recommended an anonymous online therapist. Just some guy on a hidden website accessible only through a secure browser. No judgment, the ad promised. Your secrets are safe. It sounded harmless. And for a while it was. The first sessions were uneventful. They talked about anxiety, work stress, the usual stuff. He typed out everything he'd never told a soul, feeling strangely relieved after each session. But then the questions started to feel off. Not wrong exactly, just specific. Too specific. Tell me about the night in April when your neighbor screamed, the therapist typed in one session. He froze. There had been a scream, yes, but he had never mentioned it. Not to anyone. He paused, heart hammering, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I wasn't there, he typed back. I didn't see that. The response came immediately. You were. You just didn't notice. The air around him felt heavier. He rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was imagining it. Maybe it was a lucky guess. But then the sessions got worse. One night, the therapist referenced an argument he'd had with his brother years ago. Something so mundane, so private, he thought it had disappeared from memory entirely. But there it was, typed on the screen with chilling accuracy. How did you know that? He typed, but the reply was almost casual. I don't just know. I've been watching. The words were small, almost polite, but they hit like a hammer. He stared at the screen. Watching. Oh. The following week, the therapist began predicting events before they happened. He typed about spilling coffee on his shirt the next morning. About his roommate arguing on the phone. About the exact words his boss would say during a meeting. And every single prediction came true. Fear had started creeping in uninvited. He wanted to stop. He wanted to log off and never think about it again. But something about the messages kept him coming back, as if the screen itself had a magnetic pull on his attention. One evening, the therapist asked him to describe a recurring dream. He typed about a dark room, a single flickering light, the feeling of being observed. Interesting, the reply said. And the shadow in the corner, it isn't just in your dreams, is it? He froze. Shadow? He hadn't mentioned the shadow. Not once. His hands shook as he realized that somehow, this stranger knew things he had never typed, or even spoken aloud. Then the request started. They weren't obvious at first, just small suggestions. Sit closer to the screen tonight. Leave the door unlocked when you sleep. At first he ignored them. But curiosity, or maybe a subconscious compulsion, made him follow a few. And each time the therapist noted it immediately. You did exactly what I asked. Good, the message read one night. Then came the ultimatum. Tonight, I want you to check the basement. He didn't have a basement. He typed it quickly, trying to laugh it off. But the response came instantly. Don't lie to me. You do now. Panic set in. He searched the house, every corner, every shadowed hallway. There was nothing. But he couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on him, something observing just beyond perception. Sleep became impossible. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw a flicker of movement in the corner of his room. He tried to block it out. Tried to convince himself it was paranoia. But the sessions didn't stop. Every night, the therapist typed things he had never told anyone, things that were happening right then in the house, things only someone inside could know. Until one night, the messages changed tone. They weren't polite anymore. Tonight is the last session. Come downstairs, or I'll come up. He stared at the screen, heart hammering. His phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hesitant, he answered. Silence. Then, breathing. Slow, deliberate, close. He bolted to the door. It was locked. He tried the windows. All secure. And yet, the sound followed him, faint but unmistakable. A whisper in the corner of the room. Why didn't you come down? He ran to the computer and deleted everything. The browser, the files, the messages. But the responses kept coming, now through every connected device in the house. The words appeared on his TV, his phone, even the fridge screen. You can't hide. I know everything. I always have. That's when he noticed something even more disturbing. The messages weren't just words. They were timestamps, referencing moments from the future. The therapist knew what he would do before he did it, predicted every attempt at escape. And the last message was simple, horrifying. I'm already inside. He never used that computer again. Never returned to that room. But he could never fully escape the feeling that something was watching, reading, and knowing. That even when the screen was off, the unseen eyes were still there, patient, methodical, and in control. Somewhere on the dark web, someone, or something, still waits. Waiting for the next person foolish enough to think anonymity could protect them. And the terrifying part? No one knows how many of those people ever really escape. There was a man named David. On paper, he had everything a normal life promised. An apartment in the city, a decent job, and friends who called him reliable. But beneath that surface he carried a grudge. Not just an ordinary grudge, but a simmering hatred for someone who had ruined years of his life with a single betrayal. His coworker Tom had taken credit for a project that David had poured months into. The promotion that should have been his went to Tom instead. David tried to let it go. He told himself that holding anger only poisoned the person who felt it. But when the memories kept surfacing, every dinner, every commute, every quiet night alone became a reminder. It was during one of these restless nights that he found it. A forum buried deep in the dark web that promised something extraordinary. Not just revenge but erasure. According to the anonymous posts, for the right price, a person could disappear. Not physically, not from life, but from records, from accounts, from every trace that confirmed they existed. Bank accounts, credit histories, even government databases could be wiped clean. David read every testimonial. People claimed to have erased former business partners, ex-lovers, anyone who had wronged them. And the kicker, the service guaranteed anonymity. No one would ever know who had paid. The moral weight felt negligible at first. David told himself he was just reclaiming balance. Tom had taken his years. This was justice. The next morning, David found himself sending Bitcoin to an address posted in a thread. He typed Tom's full legal name, confirmed the details, and clicked submit. The page refreshed with a simple, chilling message, "It is done." At first, nothing happened. David went to work, expecting the usual friction with Tom. But by midday he noticed the small, odd things. Tom's email bounced. Calls to his office number went unanswered. His name had vanished from the company directory. David laughed quietly, a mixture of triumph and disbelief. It worked. Tom was gone. Then the phone call came. It was his bank. A confused voice told him there had been a request to close all his accounts. Debit cards deactivated. Credit lines canceled. His online purchases vanished from history. There must be some mistake, David insisted. I didn't request anything. But the representative insisted. Every record in the system confirmed that David Archer had ceased to exist. David rushed home. He logged into government websites, only to find his social security number invalid. Every ID he had, driver's license, insurance, voting registration, no longer existed. He panicked. He tried contacting friends. Emails bounced. Social media accounts deactivated. Even his apartment lease showed him as non-existent. For the first time, the words from the dark web thread rang in his mind. You can erase someone, but every action echoes. He dug deeper into the forum, desperate to find a solution. The site was gone. Every link led to dead pages. Forums where people had claimed success now displayed only a blank screen, a digital void. David realized he had no recourse. No one could confirm he existed. No one could help him. Desperate, he returned to Tom's old apartment. Curiosity mixed with horror. It was empty, completely vacated, no forwarding address. He felt a strange satisfaction briefly. But then he looked in the mirror and caught a glimpse of something terrifying. His own reflection flickered, almost like static. For a second he didn't see his own face, just a pale, featureless outline staring back. That night he couldn't sleep. His mind raced, piecing together the pattern. This wasn't just a service, it was a warning, a balance. The dark web didn't just erase people. It mirrored the intentions behind the erasure. In trying to destroy someone else's existence, David had put himself on the same path. Weeks passed. David's presence in the world dwindled further. Bills went unpaid because his name wasn't recognized. Landlords claimed no record of him existed. His friends tried to call. Phones said numbers didn't exist. Mail returned unopened, addressed to someone who was no longer there. One morning, David received an envelope slipped under his door. No handwriting, no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. He recognized the room immediately, his own living room, but the photograph was empty. No furniture, no belongings, nothing. A white haze filled the space where he once existed. Panic clawed at him as he realized the truth. He wasn't just erased in records, he was being erased from the world itself. Every trace of his existence was fading. Photos, accounts, even memories from those around him began to blur. He could remember what he had been, but the world was forgetting him. By nightfall, David walked the streets, invisible to everyone. Pedestrians brushed past without recognition. Cars honked as if he weren't there. He shouted, but no sound carried to another human ear. He tried to break into offices, banks, anywhere that might acknowledge him, but every system rejected him as if he had never existed. The last entry in the forum haunted him. He remembered it now, carved into his mind like a warning he had ignored. Every erasure comes full circle. Choose carefully whose existence you end. And then, finally, it was complete. David stood alone in a city full of people, unseen, unheard, and forgotten. Not dead but erased. A ghost to the living world, a man whose only crime was wanting justice that wasn't his to take. Some say if you wander the dark web long enough, you might find a thread titled simply, Archer. Accounts vanish as quickly as they appear, but the warning remains. A single line under every post, revenge is a mirror, and it always reflects back. He was always looking for a deal. Not the usual, half-off-a-couch kind of deal, but something bigger, something that would change his life. When he stumbled across the listing on a forum, he thought he'd hit the jackpot. The property looked abandoned, the neighborhood empty in the satellite photos, and yet it was priced lower than any other house he'd ever seen. Too low maybe. But that's what drew him in. The auction was quiet. No flashy images, no promotional nonsense. Just a simple bid button and a countdown timer. He clicked through cautiously, half expecting it to be a scam. But a small, nondescript email confirmed his win within an hour. He was now the owner of a house in a street no one seemed to live on. He drove out that evening, keys clutched in his hand, heart racing with a mix of excitement and disbelief. The street was exactly as the photos had shown, rows of houses that looked intact but utterly silent. Mailboxes were empty. Lawns were unkempt but not overgrown, like someone had just stopped caring yesterday. The streetlights flickered intermittently, giving the place an almost surreal glow. The house he'd bought was ordinary enough. A small, two-story brick structure with peeling paint and a creaking porch. The door opened easily, and the inside smelled faintly of dust and mildew. Nothing had been vandalized. Nothing was missing. Yet it felt wrong. Every surface seemed too clean, too empty. No personal touches, no furniture, no signs anyone had lived here. He shrugged it off. "It's just abandoned," he muttered to himself, feeling a thrill at the thought of finally owning something of his own. He explored the house methodically, checking closets, drawers, every corner. There were only bare floors and empty shelves. Even the attic and basement were barren. The first night he stayed in the house. He didn't sleep much. Every creak, every distant rustle made him tense. He told himself it was nerves or the settling of an old house. By morning though, he noticed something odd. Nothing outside had moved. No footprints, no signs of recent activity. It was as if the neighborhood had been frozen in time. Over the next few days, curiosity got the better of him. He walked the street, peeking into other houses. They were all the same. Completely empty. Not just uninhabited, but stripped of anything personal. He even tried checking with the local authorities, hoping for some explanation. That's when he learned something unsettling. The police had no record of anyone living there. Not recent residents, not former owners. No complaints, no utility records, not even a single mail delivery in years. He asked neighbors further down the road. They all looked at him like he was crazy. "That street? Nobody's lived there for decades," one elderly man said. "It's been abandoned for as long as I can remember." And yet, here he was, standing in a house someone had supposedly been living in until yesterday. His unease turned to fear the night he realized the doors to his house had been unlocked, even though he was certain he had locked them. At first he blamed himself. Maybe he'd been careless. But then he noticed subtle changes inside. A chair had been moved. A window slightly ajar. Small things, almost imperceptible but impossible to ignore. He called his friend, trying to rationalize it. "Maybe someone's playing a prank," he said, forcing a laugh. But his friend's silence told him otherwise. "You don't understand," he said finally. "I'm not imagining this." That was when he saw it. A scrap of paper, folded neatly, sitting on the kitchen counter. It had no words, just a simple, precise drawing of the house, with his name written at the bottom. Heart hammering, he searched the rest of the house. Nothing else, yet he felt watched. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward him, every gust of wind against the windows like a whisper. By the fourth day, he realized the houses weren't just abandoned, they were cleared. He spoke to the few locals who would talk, and one man finally admitted the truth reluctantly. "People try to buy them," the man said. "All of them. Everyone who wins, they disappear. Or worse, they don't. The houses get emptied. Completely. No one ever explains it. No one asks questions. And no one lives there anymore." Panic set in. He wanted to leave, but the car wouldn't start. The street seemed different now, longer, darker, as if it had shifted overnight. He ran back into the house, slamming the doors behind him. That's when he noticed the walls. They weren't just empty, they were lined with hundreds of small indentations. Tiny, human-sized cavities carved into the plaster. And then he heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Coming from the next room. Not outside, not the street, but inside the house itself. He tried to flee, but as he reached for the door, a hand closed around his wrist. Cold, rigid, unrelenting. The lights flickered and went out. The next morning, neighbors found the house empty again. Not a single trace of him remained. No note, no blood, nothing. The car was gone, and the street was quiet, perfectly still, as if nothing had happened at all. The houses remain empty today, waiting for someone who thinks they've found the deal of a lifetime. And sometimes, on quiet nights, people claim they can hear the faint sound of bidding from that street, like an auction that never really ends. They say curiosity can get you into trouble, but no one ever warns you about the kind that makes you complicit. It started with a simple online ad: earn $50 a night, watch someone sleep. It sounded absurd at first. No cameras, no hidden mics, no surveillance tech. Just sit in a quiet room while someone slept and get paid. The man who took the job didn't even know the person's name. He was given a key, an address, and a set of instructions. Do nothing. Observe. Record the time you enter and exit. Leave quietly. He laughed the first night. The apartment was small, barely furnished. The bedroom was dim, curtains drawn, and in the center of the bed lay a figure, face turned away, breathing softly. It was unremarkable, almost comforting. He set a timer, sat in the corner with a cup of coffee, and watched the sleeper's chest rise and fall. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. The second night, the money felt like free cash. Halfway through the shift, he even started reading. Occasionally, the sleeper would stir, mumble something, shift in the blankets. Simple human movements. It felt normal. The job wasn't glamorous, but it wasn't creepy either. Not yet. By the fourth night, he noticed patterns. The sleeper never woke up at the same time. He never heard the sound of someone entering the apartment to check on them. No mail was delivered, no knocks on the door. Just this endless, silent watching. He started asking questions online, on forums, not to the agency that hired him. Do you ever check on the person? One reply, your job isn't to check. That's not part of the contract. Another, we only care that you're watching. The rest is none of your business. Weeks passed. The watcher began to feel uneasy. The sleeper never moved except to shift slightly in the night. No meals were left out, no sounds of someone walking around. The apartment smelled faintly of dust and old sheets, like no one had lived there for months. One night he arrived, keys in hand, and paused at the doorway. The figure in the bed hadn't moved. Not a twitch. The blankets were tucked neatly around them. He stepped closer. At first he thought it was a trick of the light. But then he noticed the stiffness of the body, the pallor of the skin, the unnatural stillness. He froze. The instructions ran through his head. Do nothing. Observe. A knot of panic twisted in his stomach. He checked the time. Carefully he left the apartment. The next night he returned. Same stillness. Same silence. The figure hadn't moved a muscle. He tried calling the police. He told them someone might be inside, unresponsive. But when they arrived, the apartment was always empty. No records of the occupant ever existed. No neighbors remembered anyone moving in. No utilities, no deliveries. The address was a phantom. The payments continued. Every week, money appeared in an unmarked envelope, always on time, always the same amount. And every week, he returned to the apartment, watched the same figure sleep, and left without touching, without interfering. Eventually, he stopped sleeping himself. The anxiety followed him home. He would wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, imagining the bed in that apartment, imagining the still figure, imagining what had happened in the hours he wasn't there. One night he couldn't resist. He opened the door slowly, crossed the room, and touched the blanket. Pull. He pulled it back. And there it was, empty. No body, no sheets, nothing. Just the faint imprint of a form pressed into the mattress. And then the whisper started. Faint, almost inaudible. Not from the apartment, but in his own head. You missed it. You weren't here. You didn't watch. He left shaking. The next week, another envelope. He didn't open it, but deep down he knew. The job was never about watching someone sleep. It was about training him, conditioning him, making him complicit in something he would never fully understand. Weeks later, he found a new listing online. Same address, same job. Earn $50 a night, watch someone sleep. And for the first time, he realized the truth. The sleeper never slept at all. They had been dead from the beginning. And he had been paid to witness it. The first time anyone noticed it, it seemed like a coincidence. A forum thread on a small, obscure corner of the dark web was buzzing with activity, the kind of quiet, obsessive chatter you usually ignore. Most of the users hid behind strange usernames, nothing that drew attention. But there was one lurker, a teenager named Alex, who couldn't help himself. He had stumbled across the forum late one night, the glow of his laptop the only light in his room, and he found himself scrolling through post after post with a curiosity he couldn't explain. At first, it was bizarre, the way people described accidents as if they were inevitable. Car veers off the cliff at Eagle Creek, one comment read. 2 pedestrians hit by a falling tree on Maple Avenue. Alex assumed they were talking about old news or urban legends, but a nagging doubt made him check the local police reports. And then he saw it. Every single incident the forum discussed had happened. Not just vaguely, not just in some other city, but exactly as described. Same street names, same number of victims, even the time of day sometimes. The posts were always written hours, sometimes days, before the accident was reported anywhere else. At first, Alex thought maybe it was some kind of predictive algorithm or a very meticulous crime reporting site, but the forum's tone didn't fit that. The users weren't journalists, they were casual, chatty, almost flippant. Poor guy didn't see it coming, one wrote under a post about a man hit by a truck. Another replied, classic Monday morning. Curiosity became obsession. Alex started bookmarking threads, watching for patterns, and then, disturbingly, he began to notice something else. Subtle suggestions appeared in the comments before the accidents happened. Small, almost playful hints. Careful crossing the street near the bakery tomorrow, one user wrote. That ladder in the alley isn't as sturdy as it looks. And then it clicked. These weren't just observations, they were instructions. The accidents weren't random. Someone was orchestrating them, and the forum was the instruction manual. Alex tried to tell himself it was impossible, that he was overreacting. But when he mentioned one post to his friend Jordan laughed. Sounds like those creepy stories you get on Reddit? Don't waste your time. But the next morning, Jordan didn't answer his phone. By evening, news reports came in. Jordan had fallen from a ladder in an alley near the bakery. It was being called a tragic accident. Alex didn't sleep that night. He scrolled through the forum, hands shaking, stomach twisting. The posts were becoming more specific, more personal. People were predicting deaths in his own town. Lives he knew, neighbors, classmates, even the mail carrier he'd seen every morning, were listed with chilling precision. And alongside each prediction, small instructions were posted. Watch for the man with the green umbrella. Don't take the left turn on 5th Street. Step carefully on the ice outside the cafe. He wanted to close the browser, to forget everything. But morbid fascination kept him reading. And then he saw it, a post under the username Observer. It was different from the others, long, calm, direct. It simply said, "Your turn is coming." Alex's heart pounded. At first, he thought it was a prank, maybe someone trolling. But then he saw the comment underneath, "If he doesn't listen, it will be as we said." The next morning, Alex woke to find a package at his door. There was nothing inside except a small note, "Step carefully." He didn't leave his room. He didn't eat. He stared at the screen, refreshing the forum again and again. New posts appeared all about him. The names and addresses were his neighbors. The instructions were his own routines, where he got coffee, which route he walked to school, the times he left his house. He realized with a terror that sank deep into his chest, that the forum wasn't just predicting deaths anymore, it was feeding them. Every word he read, every subtle suggestion shaped what was about to happen. And now he was the subject. Alex shut his laptop once, just for a minute, and the world outside seemed normal. But when he reopened it, the forum had changed. Threads were gone. Usernames deleted. Only one comment remained under Observer. "See you soon." He wanted to run. He wanted to call someone, anyone. But he couldn't. Somehow, he knew that by moving, by even breathing, he would trigger the very fate the forum had been waiting for him to follow. And when the first snow fell that evening, Alex's street was quiet. Too quiet. The mail carrier never came, the lights in the houses stayed off. And in his room, the glow of the laptop flickered one last time. A final comment appeared, typed by someone who wasn't there before, who had always been watching. "Thank you for playing along." Alex disappeared that night. The neighbors reported a missing teenager. Police found nothing unusual, no sign of a struggle, no note. Just an empty room, a laptop still warm on the desk, and the faint glow of a browser left open on a forum that no longer existed. People in town whisper about the forum sometimes, passing warnings to friends or younger siblings. But the forum always disappears before anyone can find it, only to return somewhere else, under a different name, waiting for its next observer. And somewhere out there, if you scroll long enough on the dark web, you might see it too. One of the posts will catch your eye, with a comment underneath that chills your blood. "Your turn is coming." If you enjoyed these stories and want more like it, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment telling what kind of horror story you want next.